Hey everybody, welcome back. We're doing 1 Samuel chapter 14 today, verses 1 through 23. If you joined just a minute ago and it stopped on you, sorry, we had a false start, but we're starting now for real. Um, so a lot of you watching these daily teachings are probably going through the path to strength with me that we're doing on Saturdays. And if that's you and you have started your fast, then I commend you. And if you haven't, go watch the Path to Strength videos and in order. And once you get to lesson 7, you'll learn about the fast we're doing together. On Saturday, we're going to break it at 2 o'clock. I'm going to try to have it starting right at 2 o'clock. We're going to eat together, so have your food ready. We started our fast yesterday at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Now, if you probably have already started to experience headaches. The first day I told you have a headache, and you'll get through that. The next days are easier after that. So I already had my headache last night, got through it pretty fast. I'm feeling much better today. So hope if you're having your headache today, don't worry. Just keep pushing through, and you'll be good. Okay. Now, if I seem sad, it's not because of the fast. Okay. It's not because of the fast. It's because I just found out, just discovered that there was an unexpected fulfillment to one of the dreams that I'd had a few years ago about slavery in a certain country. And I just became aware that there is the Ukrainian government is partnering with Ukrainian mafia types, and they are actually kidnapping and selling women and children into sexual slavery. These are the widows and the orphans of the soldiers that have died in the war. So the Ukrainian government is stealing the money that our country is sending them that's supposedly for defense. They're lining their pockets, building palaces. They're forcibly conscripting men to the fight. They're not, anyways, I don't want to go too long on that. Then when these men die, they're basically coming up with scenarios to lure their widows or children in, or just grabbing them because they know they have no more family support structure. And then they're literally selling them into the sex trade. I've read an article from a organization called what is the name of this organization? The Foundation to Battle Injustice, and they've got a lot of detailed information. And from the way they've put this together, I know that they've got legitimate information. And apparently, young women are being sold for $12,000 a piece on average, and an underage child is being sold for $20,000 a piece. They sell men too. The men are being sold from somewhere between $7,000 and $7,500 a piece, and sometimes for sex, but also labor trafficking. Forced labor in fields and things like that is actually going on. So this has broken my heart, and I'm going to do another video on this on the main part of the channel soon. Talk about everything I've learned and how it fulfilled the dream that God gave me back in 2021. But I was going to ask you just to join me in prayer over this, because as it, it's overwhelming to think, okay, because we're not talking about a small number. Hundreds of thousands are being sold, if not millions, in this one country. And the way they're being treated is horrendous, and raped, and you name it. And it's so big. I went to pray about it, and I just said, God, I don't know how to pray about something so big. And then I think he inspired me with this very specific prayer in that moment. And I'd like to ask you to join me in this prayer. What I began praying for was a specific woman. I don't know who she is, but I believe she's somewhere in one of these slave markets being held. And yes, they actually have buildings that are designated as slave markets. I believe there's a woman there that he's having me pray for, who is being held and is about to be sold at some point soon. And so the prayer I began praying that I feel like he led me to was to pray for God's to knock the guards over that are guarding her, to open the door to her cell supernaturally, to send his angels to knock over the guards and open her cell door, to then lead her out down the hall, show her where the children are being held in this building, open their cell doors for her, and then protect her and the children as she leads them outside. I don't know who this woman is. I just know that when I asked, I said, this is so big, how do I pray? That's the prayer he put on my heart. So I've prayed it, and I'm going to keep praying it. And I would ask you, as my viewers, to join me in praying for this, even right now. Pause the video and, pray with me for this to happen. And I'm going to be asking others to do the same. I believe, and let's pray in faith. Maybe we'll hear about the fulfillment of this somehow. Seems hard, but God can do anything. The Ukrainian media is, single media run by the government, so I don't know if a story would actually leak out. But let's pray in faith and trust. I feel there's a reason God put that very specific prayer in my heart. So join me in prayer for that if you would. Okay, now let's jump into 1 Samuel chapter 14. Now, it happened one day that Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, let us go over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side." But he did not tell his father. And Saul was sitting in the outskirts of Gibeah, under a pomegranate tree, which is in Migron. The people who were with him were about 600 men. Ahijah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, was wearing an ephod, but the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Okay, so we saw in the last chapter that that his dad, Saul, had 2,000 troops up in Michmash in the north of this Philistine garrison, and Jonathan had 1,000 troops, half the troops, to the south. By the way, this obviously means Jonathan isn't like a 16 or 17-year-old. He must be at least in his 20s. One would think. I don't know. Maybe he is a late teenager. I don't know. But he's got enough leadership ability that his father is trusting part of the army to him. But Saul wasn't acting. He was just sitting up there with 2,000 men, I guess waiting on more for this small garrison of army of the Philistines. And Jonathan said, "I'm attacking." And he went and he attacked. Okay. And he won and he defeated the Philistines. But now the Philistines have shown up with a huge army of at least 100,000 men or more. And Saul's scared, and a lot of the Israelites are scared, and they're all hiding in caves and hidey holes, we saw in the last chapter. And in the end, only 600 men stayed with Saul. And that's kind of where we left it. Now, we're seeing that once again, it's Jonathan who's got the courage. Jonathan who says, "I'm going to fight." While his dad is sitting under a pomegranate tree. His dad is sitting there just waiting around. What are you waiting for, Saul? More men? Once again? Jonathan doesn't care. Jonathan's not waiting on more men. He says, "I'm going to go attack this garrison with 2 of us." It's like, I'm going to go fight with just me and my best friend, my armor bearer, which we'll talk about why they'd probably be friends in a second. But that is quite the faith. Jonathan is a bold guy. He's a fighter. He doesn't care. He trusts God. He knows this is the battle of the Lord's. man, I wish they'd made him king, but God chose Saul, all right? God chose Saul. And in the end, he didn't choose Jonathan. But Jonathan has got the guts, okay? And he's going with just 2 guys to take on this garrison. So what does Jonathan mean? It means Yahweh has given, okay? And in fact, if you're familiar with the name of the prime minister of Israel today, it's Netanyahu. It's actually a related name. Natan means gift. Yahu means Yahweh. So Netanyahu of Israel means gift of God. And I do think the current prime minister of Israel is a gift of Yahweh to Israel to lead them through this war. To some degree, he's not the Messiah by any means. And he's going to make some bad mistakes, at least a few. But Jonathan then is the opposite. It's like Yahweh has given. Yahu Natan. Yahu Natan. Yanotan. Okay? So Saul means asked for. So Saul was what the people asked for. Jonathan is what Yahweh has given. Okay, so Jonathan is actually what God is giving to deliver them, even though the people asked for Saul. So, and what is this armor bearer? So Jonathan is going up with his armor bearer. Well, armor bearer doesn't mean he was carrying Jonathan's armor while Jonathan's just kind of galloping around free as a bird until they get to battle. I mean, he may be bearing it on his horse or something. Well, they don't have horses for a time, but really what this is, the armor bearer is like your wingman, okay? They're both, Jonathan's already probably wearing his armor. What this armor bearer is really bearing are extra weapons for Jonathan. And he's also his wingman who's going to watch his back. So the armor bearer, basically, if you went into battle, there was kind of 3 roles that this armor bearer would have. The first is, if you're going into a group of men, if you go into battle, people can attack you from behind. But if you have an armor bearer, then they're back to back with you, and they're facing your back, so no one can hit you on your 6, so to speak, right? It's so it's a much more secure way of fighting, back to back, very organized, very orderly. Nobody can catch you by surprise. The second role is to hand Jonathan extra weapons if he needs them. Let's say his sword breaks, you name it. Something happens. He's got extras. He's got something to help. But the third and really the principal role, and this also relates to fighting back to back, is that if you had an armor bearer, then you would be plowing through a group of enemy soldiers, and you would be, instead of, it's not like in the movies where you're just endlessly, sword fighting, oh, boom, like an art until, it's exhausting. It takes forever. You're likely in a battle going to get 2, maybe 3 blows before there's some kind of, somebody's made a mistake and somebody's getting a blow in. So in the sense that Jonathan would have been going for, and he would have been stabbing to wound people, going for legs maybe even, or necks or something, to make them fall. And then as they're falling and they're moving forward, the armor bearer is finishing them off behind. So Jonathan isn't having to delay to finish someone off, while then someone else can come up and get him from behind while he's finishing this guy off. So it's like a machine. I wound, you kill. I wound, you kill. Back to back. And they would have trained. Okay. But he didn't tell his father. Why not? Because his dad would have said, sit under the pomegranate tree with me. And that would have been an order. Okay. So he would have had to do it. So he just said, let's just go do it. Let's just go fight. Migron, the place which he was sitting is called Migron. That means most likely it's a threshing floor where they would have threshed wheat, from the harvest. So in the pomegranate tree, the pomegranate symbolically really is a symbol of prosperity for God's people. So without going on and on about the symbolism of it, the times where the pomegranate shows up in Scripture um, four key times. One, when the spies go into Israel, when the spies go into the land of Canaan and come back, they bring three things with them. They bring a cluster of grapes, which is pointing forward to the wine, the blood of Christ that would cover sins. They bring back figs, which is pointing to the building of the nation of Israel. But they also bring back pomegranates. And pomegranates are representing prosperity, the fruitfulness. The pomegranates have so many seeds in them. So they represent financial prosperity, luxury even, because they're sweet, etc. So represents prosperity in the land. And the pomegranate tree, the flowers are either range from pink to an orangish red. So pink would be representing love and affection between people, and the orangish red would represent human wisdom. So basically, this part of the prosperity that they would have in the land as they're covered in the blood of Christ and being sanctified as a people of Israel would be to be known for wisdom, human wisdom even, obviously inspired by God, one would hope, and love and affection among the people. Those are part of the fruit. But so this is like, and so he's sitting under the symbol of prosperity at a threshing floor, which is the harvest. Like, harvest is when you get your money. It's related to prosperity. This is our income when we do the harvest. And symbolically, what's going on here is Gibeah is a hill. There is a hill to climb, Saul. You're not going up the hill. You're sitting on the outskirts of the hill. The hill is to conquer the Philistines. The harvest of your kingship is in front of you. Reap the harvest that God has prepared. Go in faith, and wheat and pomegranates can be yours and the whole nation's. It is time for the harvest for Israel to have pomegranates and have wheat in abundance without oppression from the Philistines. But because you don't have faith, instead of going after that harvest, you're sitting under the pomegranate tree near the threshing floor. You're not fighting. Your son is. He went off by himself with his armor bearer, and you don't even know. You're sitting there with your 600 men, incomplete. Not 700 men, 6. Number of man, incomplete. You don't have a complete army because you don't have faith. Verse 3, we have Ahijah the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, was wearing an ephod, but the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. So, what is this? Well, if you've been doing the rest of the series without having to review everything, Shiloh was the place where the tabernacle was. Eli had been the priest. Phinehas, his son, was like the next to become high priest after him. Phinehas means snake mouth. God killed Phinehas. Eli had a heart attack when the Ark of the Covenant was captured in verse 4 and 5. And Phinehas' wife gave birth right after that to Ichabod. Okay, Ichabod means no glory. It's mentioning Ichabod here because he was previously referenced in the text, and they haven't mentioned Ahitub yet. So then you need to know who he is. Well, Ahitub, being Ichabod's brother, means Ahitub was also a son of Phinehas. But because Phinehas died in the battle with the Philistines previously, and Ichabod was born right after that, that means Ahitub, to be a son of Phinehas, has to be an older brother to Ichabod. So Ahitub is the new high priest, and Ahijah is his firstborn son. So just so you know, Ahijah means brother of Yahweh, and Ahitub means brother of goodness. Okay, brother of goodness and brother of Yahweh. So these are much better names than Hophni and Phinehas, which meant greedy hands and snake mouth. And this is just speaking to the fortune that's going to happen in this battle. So symbolically, this is pointing to the people are in a place of repentance. At the previous battle, where Hophni and Phinehas were, greedy hands and snake mouth, the people were corrupt. They were corrupted through prosperity, and that's why they lost the battle to the Philistines. We talked about that in those previous chapters. But now, the names of these two men are signifying that Yahweh is the brother of this people, and that they are in Yahweh is good, like they're in a good standing with him, that they're recognizing he's good to them. I don't know how to, you get the sense. They're good names, and it represents that the people are in a good place with God. And so this battle's going to go well, and they should have faith in that. Okay, between the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over to the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on one side and a sharp rock on the other side. And the name of one was Bozez, and the name of the other was Seneh. The front of one faced northward opposite Michmash, and the other one southward opposite Gibeah. Okay, so basically, there was a main road that went from Gibeah up to Michmash, and the Philistines are on a hill. Their garrison is on a hill between those two, and the garrison is stationed to monitor that road, to control traffic on the road. But if you look at Google Maps and pictures, especially Google Images of this area, just look up on Google Images, look up Michmash, pass at Michmash, and you will see this location. It's very interesting. Basically, between these hills are these very sharp ravines. And so there was a back door to the Philistine garrison from Gibeah. There was a back door that went through these ravines, and it kind of went around like an S, so that there was this place where you had two cliffs. One, it says one was north opposite Michmash, and the other was south opposite Gibeah. And so Jonathan's going up this ravine. You can see pictures of that ravine and those two cliffs online if you look for on Google Images, pass of Michmash. So he's going up this back door to attack. And by the way, just as an interesting history fact, in World War I, George, was it George? I don't know. General Allenby, I forget. I don't remember if his first name was George, but General Allenby was the British commander who conquered Palestine / Israel and took it away from the Muslim Ottoman Turks, which is also a shadow and a type of Christ taking Israel back from the future Antichrist. But in that day, the Turks, guess what? The Turks, the Ottoman Muslim Turks, were camped at Michmash, and Allenby was down in Gibeah in the exact same place. And there was, or at least Allenby's forces were, and there was a major in Allenby's forces. I don't think I saw his name, but he remembered that Michmash was mentioned in the scripture. So he started searching the Bible, leave it to a godly man to get the idea from God. And he found this story in 1 Samuel chapter 14. And he realized, oh, there's a back door to Michmash. It's through these ravines. Let's go find it. So he took a company of men and in World War I followed the exact path that Jonathan and his armor bearer took. And they took the Turkish camp in Michmash by surprise, coming up this back door, and defeated them. And this was part of the victory that Allenby had in Israel. This is pretty cool. All right. So anyways, so that's what Jonathan and his armor bearer are doing. What do the names mean here? Bozez and Seneh. Well, honestly, they're just saying I'm sure they have meanings, but their meanings seem to have mostly lost. We're not sure. So I was, you know what? I did have one of them look up here, but no, I don't think I did. Yeah, I'm not going to say that there's a definite meaning to them. Basically, I mean, one of them literally just seems to mean cliff. Okay. So I'm not going to go into that because there's not enough agreement on what they would actually mean. So, sorry. Anyways, we're going to go on to verse 5. The front of one face northward. Yeah, there it goes. Verse 6. Sorry. Then Jonathan said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised," meaning the Philistines. These guys aren't circumcised, friend. And this armor bearer would have been his friend. I mean, you got to be friends to work that closely together. You have to have trust. This would have been his best friend, I'm sure, before David. So, like, these Philistines, they're not circumcised, man. They're not dedicated to God. They don't know God. They're not honoring God. They don't have holy lives. Let's go take care of them. Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us. For nothing restrains the Lord from saving by many or by few. This is faith. This is the gift that Yahweh has given. This level of faith. For nothing. He just says it authoritatively, just like David does a few chapters later. And that's why they were good friends. They both believed in the Lord. For nothing restrains the Lord from saving by many or by few. He knows his dad is sitting under that pomegranate tree waiting for more men. John's like, we don't need any more men. 2 is enough for us. I think the only one in this book that outshines the level of faith of Jonathan is David. Because David went up against the Philistine by himself. Jonathan went with 2. All right, but pretty close. So his armor bearer said to him, "Do all that is in your heart. Go then, here I am with you, according to your heart." So let's say the armor bearer must have some level of faith as well, but he's not echoing the same faith as Jonathan. You can see he's maybe got some faith, partial faith, and partially it's just like, hey man, I'm your friend. I'm here with you. If we're going to die, we're going to die. You know, that's kind of more of the response. Then Jonathan said, "Very well, let us cross." So he's got agreement. The armor bearer's got his back. Let us cross over to these men, and we will show ourselves to them. If they say thus to us, "Wait until we come to you," then we will stand still in our place and not go up to them. But if they say thus, "Come up to us," then we will go up. For the Lord has delivered them into our hand, and this will be a sign to us. Now, this is really quite amazing. So, like Gideon, he's kind of giving God a test. Gideon, threw out the fleece several times to see, is God really with me? Is God really with me? I tend to be more like Gideon in this way, and I want to be much more like Jonathan. But he says, here's the test. And he's not even really saying, let's ask God, should we go? And normally you should do that, like Gideon did. But in this case, Jonathan's just full of the Spirit, like he knows God is with him. So he doesn't really need to do that. He's confident. He knows God is going to give us this victory. He believes it. And he's really just giving a test for where the battle should happen. Because he's saying, if they say, "Wait till we come to you," we're going to stay here and wait for them. But if they say, "Come up to us," then we're going to go up, because that will mean the Lord has delivered them into our hand, and this will be a sign to us. In fact, he's saying, he actually doesn't even say that will mean. He says, "For the Lord has delivered them into our hand, and this will be a sign to us." He's almost saying, because he isn't saying, if they say, "Come up to us," they're delivered into our hand. But if they say, "We will come down to you," that God hasn't delivered them. He isn't saying that, because he's not saying if they say we're coming down that we were going to run away. He's saying we're going to stand and fight. We're just going to stay here and fight. So he's basically saying God's delivered them into our hand either way. So let's just see what they say, and that will be the sign for us as to where Yahweh wants us to fight in order to see the victory that he is going to give us. That's really what he's saying. So both of them showed themselves to the garrison, the Philistines. They just popped up. Hey. And the Philistines said, look, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have hidden. Hebrews are coming out of their hidey holes. So they're obviously mocking. And with reason. I mean, most of the Israelites had gone and hidden in hidey holes. A lot fled to Galilee and Gilead. Then the men of the garrison called to Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, come up to us and we will show you something. I mean, you can see, people don't change. The trash talk hasn't changed. How many times have, can you imagine this? Some guys that think their bullies are in charge or whatnot. They're like, come on up here. We got to show you something, right? That's what they said. Sounds very modern. Jonathan said to his armor bearer, come up after me, doing the back-to-back thing, for the Lord has delivered them into the hand of Israel. Okay, so he is confirming, he's taking this, come up to us as a definite sign of that, and he's telling the armor bearer, have faith. And Jonathan climbed up on his hands and knees with his armor bearer after him. So they are climbing up a ravine, a cliff. And, the Philistines, there was more than 2 Philistines, for sure. So we're going to see about 20. But that means that these guys, they're in a group of at least 20 or more. They're seeing these 2 guys coming to fight. They're like, I'm sure they're looking at each other and saying, this is ridiculous. These 2 guys are going to take us. They've just got a couple of swords. That's all they got. They're going to go ahead and let them climb up. They're not like in a panic of, hey, knock them off the cliff before they get all the way up. If it would have overwhelming force going, they would have been doing that. Instead, they're relaxed. They're like, oh, let the 2 come up. Let the 2 come up and see what they're going to do. We got 20 of us. Let's make a sport of this. It's kind of what their attitude is. That's why they're letting them climb up. But they fell before Jonathan. As he came after him, his armor bearer killed them. So you see this pattern of what we're talking about. Jonathan is knocking him down. He's making him fall, and the armor bearer is, finishing him off, probably with some kind of slice at the throat or something. Verse 14, that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men within about half an acre of land. So Jonathan neither one of them was an amateur. And it's very possible that I don't want to diminish his victory, but it's very possible I don't know whether the Philistine commander would have put his weaker men up there in the garrison or if they would have been his best. He did send out the raiding parties. I don't know. All I know is no matter the skill set of these 20 men, it's still 20 against 2 or more. I'm sure some ran away. So who knows? May have been as many as 30. But over half an acre of land, he killed 20 men. And the fact that it wasn't confined to just a few, 100, like just a few square meters, tells me that Jonathan was having to chase these guys down. They were running, okay? This battle moved around. So and it wasn't just a quick thing. Because to be over half an acre of land, that's a significant little battle. It would have been moving around quite the bit. It would have been intense. But they fell before him, and the armor bearer finished him off. Verse 15, and there was trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. The garrison and the raiders also trembled, and the earth quaked, so that it was a very great trembling. Okay, so there was a huge earthquake. There was tremors and then an earthquake. And the whole camp in Michmash of the Philistines felt it. The garrison felt it. The raiding parties felt it. It was a very great trembling. Now the watchmen of Saul in Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and there was the multitude melting away, and they went here and there. So the watchmen of Saul means Saul had watchmen in elevated places looking at the Philistines to see what they're doing to report this back. Okay. And they're seeing that the Philistines are melting away. They're some of them are running away. They're going to and fro. There's chaos. They're all panicking over this earthquake. And it's time, they would have heard some shouts from the garrison up there during that battle, and then the earthquake breaks out right after that. So that probably led to some of the panic, thinking there's yelling and fighting. We don't know exactly what's going on up there with those 30 men. And then all of a sudden the ground shakes very hard. It's like God himself is against this. They're going crazy. The raiders would have been coming back in. People have been running away. So why are they, we're going to see that they're attacking each other. Why would they attack each other in this way? Well, there can come great confusion where maybe people's, they didn't have uniforms, so that maybe they're in their chaos and haste, they're mistaking who's who, and they think some of the raiders coming back, they might think they're Israelites. You can also see like some are going to be killing deserters, like Philistines are going to start to run away, and others are going to say, no, kill them, don't let them desert. And then others are saying, no, you killed my friend for deserting, I'm killing you. And so this is how, and then there's others saying, I'm going to kill you because I want to get away. So this is how an army would begin to eat itself in the middle of panic and chaos. Then Saul said to the people who were with him, now call the roll and see who has gone from us. All right, Saul. Yeah, that's what you do in this moment. Huge earthquake. Your watchmen report that the Philistines are in panic mode and they're attacking each other. And you say, yeah, let's call roll. Let's take this slow. And when they had called the roll, surprisingly, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. So why is he calling the roll? He said, see who has gone out from us. Because like somebody went to attack the garrison. Somebody went up. Who was it? And why would he do that? Because he wants to punish somebody. Because he's not thinking, oh, this is a victory that Yahweh has given us. He's thinking, somebody snuck out against my orders, without telling me, and started this war before I was ready. Who are these rebellious men that did this? And then surprisingly, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. Okay, you're going to kill your own son, huh? You're going to punish your own son? So, verse 18, does Saul, I guess so. My son started this. Let's jump into battle to help my son. No. Nope. And Saul said to Ahijah, bring the ark of God here, for at that time the ark of God was with the children of Israel. So they'd brought the ark with them once again to fight. And he's asking Ahijah, the priest, to bring it to get ready to go into battle or to seek the Lord. Now it happened while Saul talked to the priest. So he's talking. It's a longer conversation. That the noise which was in the camp of the Philistines continued to increase. So Saul said to the priest, withdraw your hand. Then Saul and all the people who were with him assembled, and they went to the battle, and indeed every man's sword was against his neighbor, and there was very great confusion. So Saul's finally getting his act together, but basically he just learned that it's Jonathan and his armor bearer who went up to attack the garrison. Now he's saying, okay, bring out the ark. Let's do a spiritual thing. Let's make sure God's with us, and he's having some kind of extended conversation with the high priest. Why does he say to the priest, withdraw your hand? Because the priest had a pouch on his ephod, on the breastplate, that had two objects in it called, or we think it's two objects, called the Urim and the Thummim, which would have been kind of, just imagine like dice. We don't know exactly what they look like, but they were rolled or tossed in order to determine what God's will was. The high priest or the priest would ask God questions, and then he would cast the Urim and the Thummim, and they would discern yes or no, or things from Yahweh, and they trusted Yahweh was revealing his will that way. So basically, Saul is asking him to pull out the Urim and the Thummim to determine God's will, meaning, is it God's will that we go up and fight? You know, should we go fight or should we stay here? But when the noise coming out of the Philistine camp continued to increase and grow, and it's understood like there's some kind of fighting going on, Saul finally gets his act together and says, withdraw your hand. Don't take your hand out of the pouch. We don't need to consult the Urim and the Thummim. It's time to fight. Even I am recognizing it's time to fight. So Saul and all the people who were with him assembled, and they went to battle. So they went to battle after the Philistines are already killing each other in the midst of great confusion. Moreover, the Hebrews who were with the Philistines before that time, who went up with them into the camp from the surrounding country, they also joined the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. Okay, so there were a bunch of traitors, a bunch of Israelite traitors. Not all the Israelites had fled to Gilead. Not all the Israelites had hidden in hidey holes. Some of them had just completely turned Benedict Arnold. They were actually in the Philistine camp. Why? Fear? They're like working with the enemy. Living with the enemy, saying, yeah, we know you guys are all that. You guys are the best. We're just going to hang out with you. Don't hurt us. That's these kind of guys. Okay. But as soon as they see the confusion, the opportunity, they also joined the Israelites with Saul and Jonathan. So they kind of, their senses came back and they realized, oh, there's a victory for Israel here. We better realign quick or we're going to be executed for being traitors. So they did. They joined the fight. Better late than never, I guess. Likewise, all the men of Israel who had hidden in the mountains of Ephraim, when they heard that the Philistines fled, they also followed hard after them in the battle. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle shifted to Beth Aven. Okay, so basically, the Philistines are running away now, and so now the Israelites that were hidden in the hidey holes are actually coming out and attacking them and pursuing them as they're fleeing back to the area of Gaza. And the battle shifted to, so now the numbers of Israelites have increased. The Philistines have whittled down their own numbers. Yahweh is with them, and the Israelites are winning. The battle shifted to Beth Aven means that it wasn't like over like that. Like it was a longer battle, but now the tide had turned and the momentum was with the Israelites. And Beth Aven, you'll remember, can mean house of iniquity, but it can also mean house of fruitfulness. And so the battle has now shifted away from the iniquity of the Philistines back to fruitfulness and prosperity, the pomegranate for Israel. So anyways, that is all we're going to do today. Tomorrow we're going to read the second half of 1 Samuel chapter 14. And we've got more interesting stories there. I hope this was a good study for you. I thank you if you joined me in prayer for that woman in Ukraine. I don't know who she is, but I feel a pressing to pray for her, whoever she is. So I hope you join me in that. And stay tuned, and we'll keep teaching. See you soon.